The FBI sounds alarm. Hackers eyeing plastic surgery office in a ruthless extortion spree. So the FBI has sounded alarm on the menacing extortion scheme where heartless hackers are zeroing in on plastic surgery offices to steal patient data. These thieves are stealing from medical practices and found that plastic surgery offices are a good source for them to steal from. They're basically saying, pay up or watch your most intimate medical records, including pre and post operative photographs, get posted all over the dark corners of the internet. So this sinister wave of extortion isn't new. It's a dark cloud that's been looming since at least 2017. The FBI's fresh warning is showing us that data from 2017 is still a threat to our personal information. It's causing fear and concern among law enforcement and healthcare sector alike. Now, for small business owners operating in the healthcare system, this is a terrifying wake-up call. Plastic surgery offices are full of sensitive patient information, like I mentioned earlier, before and after pictures, which are very intimate in many cases. The reality is that in digital age, no small business is safe from the cold clutches of cyber extortion. The FBI warning aims to jolt the healthcare community into action, urging it to adopt security measures to shield patient data from these merciless attacks. So this is some common news or news that just came out from hackers doing bad things to businesses. And thought I'd share it with you. So now while we're all here, we want to talk about how to protect your business from cyber attacks. And this is our second time doing this, and we're getting a little bit better at it, and super excited to share this new version with you. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is ask you a question. Does ignoring a threat make it go away? That's one for you to think about. I don't think I have to answer that one, but we will over the next 20 minutes. In the next 20 minutes, you're going to be able to decide for yourself. So, and next step is, I need to tell you things have changed. If you're not aware of how things have changed, let's think about back before COVID. Do we all remember before COVID? Possibly, maybe. I do remember a time before COVID when things might have been normal, when things were not as crazy, where we worked from offices, we saw each other, we liked being around each other. Now we have so many things that have changed. Just in the last couple of years, hackers have changed how they attack, and the criminals are doing what they're doing. They're no longer just kids in a closet trying to steal or hurt people. They're entire commercial organizations. They have backers, they have financial boards, they run just like big corporations, and they're expected to make a profit. So that's one of the things that changed. And if we remember a couple of years ago, if you live on the East Coast, like most of us probably do, you probably remember that you couldn't get gas for a few weeks. And you'll remember the Colonial Pipeline. That was where things started to change big time. It was one of the big events that cyber attackers or criminals did that was different from the norm. Usually, when the bad guys did something and our law enforcement were able to track them down, they'd know who it was, knew where it came from, and could identify it. In this case, it was something they never heard of before, an organization they never heard of. And the big thing that was different was this was just a small group that nobody knew them, nobody knew who they were, but they rented the software from the big known bad guys and were able to pull off a huge attack that cost our country millions and millions of dollars. And that was a big thing for changing, because we thought the attackers were big organizations, big state agencies, big hacking groups, when in this case, it was a little known hacking group that used resources from a larger one. That's just the beginning of how things have changed. And as we go through the next few minutes and 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk about some other things that changed and why it's important to protect our businesses from cyber attack. Now, just today at 9:19 this morning, we had over 283,000 attacks in our country. Huge numbers. These are just ones that we're tracking. And that's a big number. So how susceptible is your team to enabling a cyber attack? And if you were attacked, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? And that's part of what we're here to talk about. Now, back to how things have changed. The attacks, they're changing from wire transfers, identity impersonation. It's more than just ransom these days. There's so much more. So I want to talk about some things about how to protect your business. And we're going to talk about a couple of things that matter at a higher level. And they're more of what is something? What's the difference in a breach and compromise? What's a business email compromise? What is the criminal mindset? And then how concerned are you about getting attacked? So these are some big questions that you as a business owner need to think about, because these are very important things that most businesses don't think about these days. If you lost all your money in your bank account because a hacker stole it, what are you going to do the next morning? If your network was hacked, how much would it impact your business? And if you had to pay to get your data back, would you be willing to do it? And how much would you pay? And could you afford to pay it? These are things to think about. So we're all small business owners. And I'm going to share with you right now that being small is not a defense. It is not a defense. The only thing it's going to do is being small makes it so the news is not going to care that you got attacked. You're not going to make the news, and you're still going to lose your money. So I'm not going to read everything on this page, but it talks about a ton of businesses that are small and statistics and details about businesses. There's so many hacks going on these days, large organizations, small organizations, but the criminals are after small organizations now because the big ones have been spending millions of dollars to protect themselves, where we haven't. And I want to spend some time throughout this to talk about some things that we need to pay attention to and how do we protect our businesses. And with that, let's talk about some things that have happened here locally. So HRSD, some people remember that when we didn't get our bills from HRSD for a while. They were hacked. They had a ransomware attack that shut them down. Chesapeake Regional had a ransomware attack. This went all about local on the right side here. Lincoln College, it went out of business after 157 years. It survived the Spanish flu. It survived the Great Depression. It almost survived COVID, but then there was a ransomware hack, right in the middle of when they were signing up new students, and it shut them down. They couldn't recover. They shut their doors because they couldn't fix it. And just recently, and it's not on here yet, the 23andMe attack, where our DNA, if you use 23andMe, your DNA is now, someone stole it and they have it. What can they do with it? I don't know. That's more for medical and smart people to know, but I know it's not a good thing. So it just shows that the criminals are doing their job to steal and hurt us. We have to do our job to protect ourselves from them. So let's continue on. Now, some boring statistics. I really hate this, but I did share it with you anyway. But 82% of the attacks happen in the cloud. And even what we do as Easy Servers, we try to move our clients in the cloud as much as possible as well. But if 82% of the attacks happen in the cloud, why are we putting our data there? Well, because it's still more secure than your office. So we can do things to help prevent and protect that data that we can't do in your office. So we talked about things changing. I mentioned that the model of how hackers work has changed. And this is clear. It's a business model. The business model changed because they are a business. It's their job to steal from you. They don't care about different things. Ransomware as a service makes it so a kid can make a bunch of money because he can. He doesn't care. Criminal gangs are selling stuff. Our business information's on the dark web. Social engineering is at an all-time high. All we have to do now is call your secretary and pretend to be someone else, and we can get bad guys can steal from them. And your secretary doesn't know anything better than, or anymore, why she got that information, because she thought she was talking to somebody who was important. We have contaminated emails, drive-by downloads, all kinds of bad stuff that the criminals are doing. Really bad stuff. Now, these criminals are going after business owners, and there's a reason for it. Even though there are more non-business owners out there, they don't have the money that small businesses do. We move a lot of money in our small businesses, and we're a huge target because we're much more loose with how we handle our money, how we move money, how we manage things than, say, a large corporation would be. They have checks and balances to protect certain things, where our smaller businesses don't. So they want to steal your information. They want to steal your money, and they'll use coercion, threats, pressure, and they'll threaten your most important relationships. They can use deep fakes, and even emails can be faked. So it's really dangerous what these criminals are doing. And it has nothing to do with more than just your money. All they want is your money. They don't care about you and what happens to you or your family afterwards. So now I'm going to ask you a second question. Is your business as locked down as you think it is? And what happens if you wire your funds to a criminal? These are two simple questions. Some of us have more security than others. And if you mistakenly wire funds to a criminal, it's gone. So some details about small business in the area and about how we look at it, who's being attacked, what's the chance of it, and how expensive it can be. And these are numbers the insurance companies are using too, because that's another thing that changed. And we'll talk about that in just a moment too. But 61% of attacks are using your own employees' credentials. That's most of the attacks. And almost all the attacks are coming by email. And it takes almost a half a year to find that there's been an attack. Some of these things are crazy. They're scary because we don't know that it's happening. We have our staff doing things. They're working hard. They're trying to solve problems. But then they click a link in an email, and 10 minutes later, your business is encrypted. And you can't access your data. And nobody knows what happened. What are you going to do? That's what the next question is. You have cyber insurance, right? We all have cyber insurance. Well, if you don't, you need to get it because your insurance companies have done some really sneaky things, because this is the second major thing that changed. Before the pandemic, insurance companies were insuring cyber insurance. They thought it was a huge profit maker. They thought they would make a bunch of money, and they were wrong. Now, insurance companies, as we know, are for-profit businesses. They have a goal of making a profit. So they're going to pay out as little as possible whenever they can. And now their forms are asking for much, much more information. And they're looking for, do you have inaccuracies? Did you do what they call failure to maintain or failed to maintain, which means you use an industry standard, accepted standard to manage your technology. And they can use those for reasons not to pay out. If you're not maintaining your technology, if you still have your brother, sister's, cousin's, uncle managing your technology, there's a good chance you're not meeting the industry accepted standards. If you don't know, you're not meeting them. That's the easy way to look at it. If you know you're meeting them and you can prove it, it's easy. But if you can't prove it, you're not meeting them, which means you're probably not going to get paid out if there's a data breach. So, about why are they making it more difficult to get coverage? There's a lot of different reasons, but part of what we talked about earlier is it's become expensive. When the Colonial Pipeline was attacked, they paid out millions. And even though we recovered the money afterwards, the insurance company still paid millions when if they had a little bit of security on the server that was attacked, the attack never would have happened. So the insurance companies are making sure that you as a business owner have to do some basic security things to protect your environment. Much like in cars and the federal stuff, we've got seatbelts. If you're not wearing your seatbelt and you're getting into an accident, your insurance company is probably not going to be very nice to you about it. The same goes for our computers. So now here's another question. Up to this point, how do you feel? Do you think your insurance will protect you? It's a simple question. We've all had our insurance. When we get in an accident, they pay to get our car fixed, they replace it or whatever. Our business insurance has always been the same way until now. So what would you do if you had $100,000 taken from your business bank account tonight and the insurance company does not pay it back? Think about that for a moment. Under the new way insurance companies are doing something, this is the most likely answer you're going to have. They're not going to pay it back. What are you going to do as a business owner? How are you going to pay your employees? How are you going to make the bills, pay your vendors, even yourself if you actually get a paycheck from your business? So think about that, because no one is too small to be hacked. You're too small to make the news. With that in mind, I have a short video for you, and this gentleman is going to walk us through and talk about some cybersecurity threats. All right. That was an interesting video talking about how things are changing still, where we're getting better at using our technology, but that doesn't mean we're getting safer at it, even though some of us think we do. So let's talk about, again, how do we respond to cyber threats? So remember, the hacker's job is to steal your information. And that's it. That's their main thing. So how are you going to manage that risk? How are you going to discover your security weaknesses? And where do you as a business owner start? Well, the simple thing is, you have to ask this question to yourself first. Is now the time you want to manage your risk? Yes? If that's yes, we'll continue. If no, what is your first step? If you said no, you can go ahead and leave now. It's okay. You're not worried about it. But if you said yes, do you like to manage your risk? Let's move to the next part. We have to identify your current risk exposure. That's the very first thing you have to do. You don't know how much risk you have until you find out. So if you care, let's find out. The first thing we do with that is getting the facts you need. How do you get the facts you need to make the right decision? We start with a risk assessment. Now, we've all done risk assessments, I hope, for different things. In this case, we're doing a cybersecurity risk assessment. Now, what ZZ Servers does is we focus on a company and we work through as a professional consulting engagement. We investigate your current security position. Now, these are things you can do yourself, but we also provide it as well. You can determine how susceptible your business is to attack. You can find out if your staff or employees are enabling attacks, identify the physical and procedures and weaknesses that your business has, and identify the most likely at-risk business assets. Those are all very important. And if you don't know what those are, this is a great time to start identifying what is done to do it, how to find the risk. So it's a fully interactive process that involves your entire team. It starts at the executive level, where business owners, department heads, and leaders need to take ownership of the processes, take ownership of the risk, and make sure the organization understands that this process is important. It involves the entire team, from physical inspections, system inspections, your application and data, your business. There's all kinds of risk involved, but we'll start with the beginning. And our process starts with an executive sponsor meeting, where you sit down with all the executives and cover what the risk assessment is about. How are we doing it? Who's involved? What's the timeline? And what needs to be inspected? And then we move on into a security policy review. We have to know about the policies your business has before we can do anything else. In many cases, you may not have any, which means it's time to start building policies. Without policies, your staff won't know what to do. They're going to be doing things on their own and do what they believe is the right thing, regardless if it's right or not. From there, we move into your physical environment. So there's a lot of different things. And as we saw from the video, one of the ways attackers attack is they'll leave a thumb drive that says family pictures and hope you plug it in. How do we prevent that thing? We look at your physical environment and we identify where those risks are. Then the assessment moves on and looks at your network to see what it looks like. What kind of equipment do you have? Do you have vulnerable equipment? Do you have the right equipment? Is it configured properly? There's a lot of different details to look at. There's thousands of things to look at. A data review, we need to know what kind of data you're working with, and you need to know that too. Who's working with it? Why are they working with it? Who's responsible for it, and how's it protected? And intellectual property. That's a huge review part too. All of our businesses have their own intellectual property and their own data. So we need to see what that is, and you to find out what it is, to how it's protected, how important it is. Next, we move on to your users and systems. And this is probably the most important part. Your users are the most vulnerable part of your network because they can be part of social engineering. They could be tricked into doing things that they wouldn't normally do. So we have to make sure that they're safe as well. And then look on the dark web. We want to see if your business is on the dark web. So that's important because if you're on the dark web, there's a chance that criminals have either attempted to or are attempting to break into your business. And then we end with a team behavior test, which we talk about to your team and find out what actions they're going to take under certain situations, so we can understand how good is their training in the cyber protections. Are they going to do the right thing? And as part of that, we want to make sure they're doing the right thing because it's about supporting them and their strengths. So after that's completed, it's all about taking action to keep your business as safe as possible. Once you've found the risks and the weaknesses, it's time to shore them up and protect your business from the bad guys. Now, I've tried not to talk about my company too much here, but next I want to share some of the folks we've worked with both locally and online, and we're really super happy to work with them. On the north side, we've got JNF Alliance Group. They work on these really amazing, the virtual reality and augmented reality headsets. I got to go see one of their presentations last month, and they were doing virtual reality police training where there was a agitated person and a police officer who went in. They both had virtual reality headsets on. From their point of view, they looked like they were in a real house interacting with another person, and everything for them looked like it was real. For those watching, they were just two guys walking around on the carpet, but it was really cool. And then we work with other companies like Xanterra, which they do processing they do hotel reservations for the Park Service. And there's a couple other ones. We got AG Wraps, which does vehicle wrapping, and a bunch of other companies that we work with locally. I can't fit them all up here. There's not enough room. If you found what we talked about intriguing or interesting, or you do want to talk more about the risk in your business, I'd love to chat with you. And as you can see from my picture, I am a little bit different than there. I shaved the beard off, so it's a little bit less. But if you want to talk, just go to our website at zzservers.com, and there's a blue button on the top. Go ahead and click that, and my calendar will come up, and schedule a half an hour with me. I'd love to talk to you and see how I can help you secure and protect your business. Anyway, I got some notes on here, but that's not for you guys. So anyway, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate your time. And next month, we're going to be doing some more exciting things and finding out what it takes to help protect your business from cyber threats. Anyway, thank you so much and have an amazing day.